Hi, I'm here with Spencer Moss of Spencer Connect. Spencer, please tell us how you help increase revenue for corporations and small businesses.
Well, let me start off by explaining what I do. I think that would probably lead into it. I focus on business development and creating revenues using traditional and new media, which is basically public media relations, social media, uh, old school business development techniques. So what I do is I look at a client, see how well known they are, if they've been out there, if they've been creating content, are they going to trade shows, what have they done to develop business on their own, what has worked and what hasn't worked. And from there, using a blank sheet of paper, we create a game plan. I'm very pragmatic and focused on strategy and tactics. So once that plan is laid out, this can incorporate using social media platforms that are relevant for their business, which means if they're B2B or if they're working as a private equity firm or something along that line, which ones make sense. Along with that, looking at what trade shows they may be attending and how I can help them with that. And then other sort of old school business development, helping them set up meetings, how they handle meetings, do they understand consultative sales, and if not, go through the process with them to get them away from the normal traditional throw up and show up, or show up and throw up, excuse me, which a lot of companies do. They want to talk about who they are and how great they are, and they don't listen to a client's need. So that's basically in a nutshell what I do.
Great. And now, Spencer, can you give us a use case of a company that you've worked with and how you've helped grow their business?
Let me give you three because I think they cover the different areas. I've been working with a private equity firm that was launching a new thread of business for themselves, which was capital being made available for healthcare companies. And they wanted to use their LinkedIn contacts to do this. So we developed a game plan where we created the proper messaging, the proper call to action, and then went through the process of contacting 1,100 of their LinkedIn contacts. It was phase one of three phases. The success of phase one was so beyond what we expected that we actually had to pause three times just to catch up on the leads being generated.
Wow.
Second case was a medical devices firm that again, they had had some recognition in the past, but at this point, and when we were working with them, that had kind of faded. So we created a campaign of creating and presenting articles to trade publications that were being sent to their target audience. They again were a product and device firm. They were working in medical, working in consumer, and a couple of other areas. So we were going to them with stories. And in doing that, we were averaging about 1.5 to 2 articles per month, which they then used to send out to their prospects and to their clients. That generated conversation for them. And it got to the point where we actually had to get very, very creative. And I told the executives that I needed to talk to them about, what do you foresee in 10 years in the medical world? And I said, go ahead and think Star Trek. And they got very outrageous, and we had 2 magazines that loved it and did group interviews. The third one was a company in a trade show, again, had not received any notices, any coverage, and never had somebody from the media come by. First time out, I was able to generate 6 stories for them. In fact, in one case, someone from PBS came by and complimented on how we had approached him and how we dealt with him. And because of that, he had to come by their trade show booth and meet with them. So those are the 3 case studies that kind of covers the social media side, working with the media traditionally, and then working trade shows.
Great. And now, Spencer, you have a lot of great strategies for trade shows and conferences. If you can please give us some of your tips.
Well, the first thing is 6 months, or not 6 months, but no later than 6 weeks out from when the show starts. Companies should begin contacting not only the reporters that may be covering the trade show and the trade publications, but also the people they want to meet with. And if they're there and they have a booth or they're a sponsor, those lists should be readily available to them, and then as you get closer, those will be updated and more names will be added. So it is contacting reporters that are attending, reporters that may have been attending, or if you can't get a list, do a search and find out what reporters are covering that particular industry in that particular space and ask to meet with them. And you've got to do this at least 6 weeks out. The same thing with companies that are attending. Executives that you want to meet with, again, contact them before and get on their calendar, get them on your calendar. Once there, you should have a media kit, which I'm going to come back to, have a booth set up, and make sure that you can get an updated list of who's attending and what reporters are there. Now, my recommendation for the infamous tchotchke, I know a lot of people like hats and t-shirts and pens and what have you. What I suggest is buying flash drives, having your logo put onto it, having the items that would go into a press kit put into the flash drive that's locked in and is cataloged, so that you can give those to reporters, you can give those to key people that you meet, so they have the information, but they also have something they will keep and use. Also, when you're at the booth, a lot of companies will have a giveaway. They'll have a business card drawing. Now, what happens at most trade shows is that they have a way to scan the badge that they have that enters them into the drawing. I tell companies, go ahead and let them scan, but don't use that. Tell them that you need a card. Now, if somebody hands you a card and they walk away, I would write no on the back of the card and stick it in my pocket. If you have a good conversation, I would write yes on the back of the card. One thing about that is that when the trade show's over, you know who to contact, or even at the trade show, set up a private meeting. When you do the drawing, to be honest, and I've told this to some companies, go through the cards, figure out who your best targets are, and that's who you draw from. I mean, there's no point in giving whatever it is to your competition, because your competition may come by and put the cards in. So, rig it a little bit. I mean, this is Chicago, so rig it. After the trade show, that's when you want to start following up and say, we met there. You might want to check their profile on LinkedIn. If it was a good conversation, connect with them. Also, a lot of trade shows now have phone apps that give you updated information on what's going on. And from there, maybe you can present an article, maybe you can get videoed. That type of thing you can take care of there and raise your profile. I mean, be very active. Networking is key. I mean, one thing, going back to how do I help companies, you network. You've got to still have face-to-face. You can do all you want online, but until there's a face-to-face meeting, particularly if you're offering something that's a relatively mid-level expensive service as opposed to something which is a monthly pay. So you've got to get out, meet with the people, keep in touch with them. As I tell my clients, you've got to make an effort to continue those conversations 2, 3, 4 weeks out, and then continuously with your key prospects.
Great. Now, Spencer, I know you're busy, so I have one last question for you. What are some of the effective strategies that you've used to grow your own business?
Well, pretty much what I've covered. I do network, but my network is targeted. In other words, I want to go to not where my peers are necessarily, but where my prospects are. I don't like large events. The events I typically go to are maybe 50, 60, at most 100 people. And going to networking events where you've got 300, 400, there's no point. And particularly if they're general audience events. I work on referrals. The other thing is that I try and develop content that I can use for me that is primarily video. And the one thing that most companies don't know is that 55% of all communication is basically visual. So me looking at you, you looking at me, we're communicating. 35% is audio. What's the tonality? What am I saying? Am I joking with you? Am I being serious? If you want to play with that, pick one word and try and put different meanings to it by just saying it a different way. And then 10% is text. So if a company has the ability to do videos on who they are, to show and give the idea and flavor of the company culture, talk about their products, talk about their philosophy, talk about their mission, it comes across warmer if you're seeing a video, looking at the face and hearing the voice. Worst case, you can use something like Blog Talk Radio to get contact developed, so they can hear your voice and understand it. And if you can't do that, then yes, definitely blog, definitely write white papers. Make sure you distribute it using all the means you have, not only through email marketing, but also using services like LinkedIn, using Twitter. And a lot of companies are a little nervous about Twitter. Don't be. There are ways you can use it to your advantage. If you're B2C, obviously Facebook, and you've got other emerging, which goes with that, Pinterest and others. So what I do is I network, I talk to people, I let them know what I do, I keep in touch. I have 40 of my best contacts, I keep in touch with them, and I put out white papers.
Great. Spencer, thank you so much for taking the time to share some of your advice with us.
Thank you.
If you're interested in learning more and connecting with Spencer, go to fundology.com.